we have established that Mary of Cleophas is actually Jesus's mother, which is also the mother of James and Joseph, and that Mary Magdalene is the sister or sister-in-law of Mary of Cleophas, which would make her the Virgin Mary character that gives birth to Jesus Christ, or has immaculate conception from God, or is impregnated by God. So let's run through this timeline real quick and just kind of show you how everything works in reverse to match Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper and this quantum superposition or inverted pyramids immaculate conception. So if we're running this backwards, Mary encounters Jesus's ghost, right? You're going from this particular moment of Jesus being a ghost to the crucifixion and all of the events in between. And you get to this point where there are these private encounters between Jesus and Mary. Now, there is also another book called The Gospel of Mary, which talks about the relationship that these two had. Jesus privately teaches Mary Magdalene, and this is also evoking jealousy in some of the disciples, basically stating that there is a possibility that they could have had a much closer relationship than assumed. Now, once Mary meets the ghost, you go backwards, and then Jesus' ministry actually begins after they met. So that means that they're both ministering, meaning Mary and Jesus are both ministering, right? And then you get to the point of Jesus' birth in Bethlehem, which it states that there was no room for them in the inn. And as I explained in other videos, basically this is a depiction of the man-child being born outside of the realm, and basically there being no room for him within the system or the magnetic resonance of Earth. There's actually a great earthquake when they say the veil of the temple was rent in twain from top to bottom. And if you've been following me, what I've been discussing on this channel is that the veil of the temple represents the two pyramids, inverted pyramids in quantum superposition, and this is an actual act of sexual intercourse that is happening between the two of them. So the great earthquake, as depicted in Revelation 6:12, is basically talking about this act of bringing the man-child into union, and the veil of the temple being rent at the death of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, and this event that basically causes this great catastrophe is talking about the act of immaculate conception, meaning that Jesus and Mary have intercourse. This is the ghost of Jesus impregnating Mary Magdalene in immaculate conception. If you take a look at this chart that I created entitled Hexagon, or How Time Ends, this particular shape is very key because the two inverted pyramids, as I explained, is a representation of quantum superposition, and it's actually formed out of two sevens. And 7, as I explained before, is the scythe or the reaper, or basically how time ends. And if you're looking at it from an immaculate conception perspective, and you're talking about the birth of the man-child being the actual representation of what shuts down the moon machine and ends time, this is a perfect symbol to find within Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper painting. And I find it very, a huge coincidence that I'm looking into this particular thing and found this symbol exactly. And it also has the number 8 in it, like right in the center. So I think it's very succinct. So the key to this particular painting is nestled in Luke chapter 22 verse 7, and as I explained before, this is the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is basically before, or the Last Supper that happens before the crucifixion. 22 divided by 7 is the mathematical equation for the inverted pyramids, meaning that 22 divided by 7 is actually pi, 3.14, or an irrational number that just repeats, or it represents creation, as I explained in my previous video. The breakdown of the mathematics of the pi of this particular Earth sphere is 1, 3, 4, 6, and 2, 5, which 1 and 3 is actually the number 4, or it could be iterated as the number 22, and 2 and 5 is actually the number 7. So 22 divided by 7 is 3.14, or pi, which is actually Luke chapter 22 verse 7. This is why I say that the Bible itself is a grimoire, because in Luke chapter 22 verse 7, you're talking about the equation of 22 divided by 7, and this is the Passover, or Passover meaning division, which is a dot, a line, and a dot, which is the Passover, or the division of 22 divided by 7. So basically you have here the Bible kind of indicating that 22 divided by 7, or these two inverted pyramids that you see within the Last Supper of Leonardo da Vinci's painting, is a representation of pi, or the immaculate conception between Jesus and Mary. Also interesting is if you take the numbers 1 and 3, it equals 4, and the numbers 2 and 5 equals 7, and 4 plus 7 equals 11, which takes you right back to the two witnesses of Revelations 11, or the twin witnesses, or the two towers. And actually, it's even more succinct if you take the numbers of pi, which is 3.14, and you add 3 plus 1 plus 4 equals 8, which leads you right back to this same symbology, which the two inverted pyramids in and of themselves are two sevens. However, they are actually in the shape of an 8, which is a representation of time, or basically a loop. And the 7 representing the side is the breaking of that loop, or the slip knot basically that destroys time within this shape. The number 22, the number 13, and the number 4 is a representation of the 13th bloodline. And again, the 40-degree angle with the 90-degree angle represents the phallus or the male phallus, which are two 90-degree angles at the bottom of the ankh, and the 40-degree angle at the bottom of the isosceles triangle within the top portion of the diagram of the ankh symbol or the womb space, which also has an 180-degree circle at the top, which is representing the womb if you divide everything off in an angular fashion. Within this shape of two inverted pyramids, you have two sevens or two sides. And the 7 symbol is representative of the side or the reaping symbol, which basically is what rips the veil of the temple, the veil representing this line between the quantum superposition of the womb space and the male phallus in twain from top to bottom, which is what quantum superposition is and which is what Immaculate Conception is representing. If you also look at this from the perspective of the ankh symbol and you look at the bottom portion, which are the two 90-degree angles, and we're talking about the 7 energy ripping the veil or the act of sexual intercourse between the 40-degree angle of the isosceles triangle and the 90-degree angle being the 9 plus 4 equals 13 or the birth of the 13th bloodline, you have two 7s that are actually represented as the 90-degree angle as well. And actually the chromosomes are in the shape of an X. Like, how divinely guided is that? Meaning that these chromosomes are in the shape of two inverted pyramids or quantum superposition, and there are 22 of them. If you look at the ankh symbol and you look at the shape of the top portion, which is where the V intersects with the bottom portion, which is the phallus section, it actually is in the form or the shape of a Y. And Y is a part of the male chromosomes X and Y. So I hope you enjoyed this message, and put a comment down in the comments and just let me know what you think of this content overall. Please like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for watching. Keep shining bright. Peace, love, and light.